it's not necessarily, we weren't here yesterday to go over it. So you guys are going to do a discussion board first. So, follow along as I read. So this is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. and it was, I can't remember which exact speech it was, but if you're interested, I can find the whole one for you so you can watch it on YouTube. It was, now I realize that there are those all over who are telling us that we must slow up, but we cannot afford to slow up. We have a moral obligation to press on. We have our self-respect to maintain, but even more, we can't afford to slow up because of our love for America and our love for the democratic way of life. We must keep moving, we must keep going. What is he talking about when he's saying there are those who are telling us that we must slow up? We cannot afford to slow up. What's he meaning by slow up? You guys know what he did, right? The icon that he was. Okay, so what was the movement that he was attached to? Yeah. Yeah. Equal rights. Civil rights movement specifically for the rights of African Americans. That's kind of what he was fighting for, more specifically, okay? So when he's saying, they're telling us that we must slow up on what? Make some inferences. What could he be talking about? What could people want him to stop doing or to slow down? Put it together. Again, what was the movement he was attached to? Civil rights. Okay, so what could it be that people wanted to slow up on? His fight for civil rights. Okay? It's a rough Monday-ish morning. Okay? So, look at it again. Alright? I know, but it's our first day of the week. Look at it again. Now I realize that there are those all over who are telling us that we must slow up, but we cannot afford to slow up. We have a moral obligation to press on, okay? Aiden. He's referring to civil rights and his fight for equality, alright? So my question for you guys is on the bottom. So I want you to read the quote above, which we just did. Think what would have happened if Dr. King and other activists had slowed up during the civil rights movement, okay? Think about if he didn't fight as hard as he did. He lost his life fighting for this right, right? He was basically tortured fighting for this right. He was jailed fighting for this right, okay? Would your life be different? Now discuss the following question in at least 50 words. Is racism and or prejudice still an issue in the United States today? What should we think about that? Okay? Do you think it's an issue in the United States today? Explain your reasoning. Do you have a moral obligation to press on? So think about that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for civil rights, not necessarily for me, right? But for African Americans. So whose job is it to fight for those who need rights, right? What did I just say? Oh, look at you, dual hearing, okay? I want you to think about that. If someone's being oppressed, whose job is it to stand up for them? Whose job is it to fight for their rights? Okay? I don't know, I'm asking you guys. But that's what I want you to answer, okay? If it's not your job, whose job is it? Right? So I want you to explain why. So respond to at least 2 others in 50 words. So go ahead and do that first. So make your own response. Is racism and or prejudice still an issue in the United States today? Explain your reasoning. Okay? So do you think it is or do you think it's not? Explain why. And then do you have a moral obligation to press on? Do you have a moral obligation to fight for others? Okay, even if it's not necessarily you that's facing the discrimination. You can if you want to, but I just think. Yeah. So you two always.
It's just the same thing.
Yeah, it just sucks because there's only 2 of you in advance.
I'm sorry. Like, we're having a conversation based on
Yeah.
You
So,
have to respond to what they're responding to.
Yeah. So you guys are just gonna have a conversation, the 2 of you.
And have a great conversation.
Okay. If you want help or don't necessarily understand what I'm asking you, let me know.
I don't know how to start it.
I don't know how to get past the conflict.
Alright, so let's go over the narrative, okay? So on your modules, this is here for you if you want to look at this later if you're struggling, okay? Alright, narrative conclusion. Okay, so there are a few different types of Riley focuses, There are a few different types of endings for narratives, and like there's a million more. Bless you, Lily. But I'm just going to review some common ones, okay? So one type of ending is the personal comment. Oh my gosh. Personal comment ending. So does someone want to read that example? Lily, go ahead.
Bringing more bread would not have solved our problem because the ducks would never have had enough. In this case, instead of mice and cookies, the moral is if you give a duck bread, he'll ask for some more. Next time when life wants to teach me a lesson, I'll just read the story.
So you see how like the characters kind of bring in a personal comment to end? That would work really well if you're doing a first person point of view, you know, where the main character is telling the story. But as the narrator, you can also end the story with a kind of a personal comment like that, even if you're doing a third person point of view. You can kind of tie it up, or you can connect it to the beginning with a personal comment. Has anyone seen Shawshank Redemption? It's a little too old for you guys. So
I have. I love that movie.
So in that movie, the narrator isn't the main character, but he's giving his own opinions like throughout the story. So it's kind of like he's narrating everything that's happening, but he's also a character in the story. And so at the end, it's kind of like his own summary of what's happened. So you can end the story in that way. So it says, close with a personal comment or response to what you have written. It is not the same thing as an opinion. It's more like a personal conclusion you have reached or a lesson you have learned, okay? So you guys, the theme you guys kind of focus on, Ryan, say with me, Aiden, okay? It's kind of survival, right? You could end with a personal comment on survival, or like the meaning of survival, or maybe what your character has learned throughout this, okay? So there's the ambiguous ending. Did we get over the word ambiguous? No. Okay. Ambiguous is something that's unknown. So if you guys ever read a book or watched a movie where it ends and it kind of leaves what happens up to you to figure out. So it could go like a million ways where you're like, okay, there's no like strict ending. It's kind of it's up to the interpretation of the viewer or the reader. I think I guys gave you an example of this. There was a book that I read in high school called A Farewell to Arms, and I have it if anyone of you guys wanted to read it. But the ending scene is the main character walking away in the rain. Like, all this stuff happens, and then the character just walks away in the rain. So, like, he could be doing anything. That could mean that he's upset or whatever. So you can end it in a way that doesn't necessarily end it in a way that everyone understands. You could leave it in an ambiguous format. Ryan, your hand's up, bud.
Yeah, how many pages does it have to be minimum?
How many pages have to be minimum? 2 single-spaced. So if you wanted to do a different font or something like that, that's fine.
Wait, it has to be...
Think about the content you would need for a 2-page single-spaced
Wait,
story.
I thought it was 3. Is it 2?
It's 3 for advanced.
Oh, that's on my thing.
All right. Who wants to read the ambiguous ending? Go ahead, Kara.
An example or the
Just the first part.
close with a statement that shows some things will never be resolved. However, be sure to do this in a way that the reader does not think you just forgot to end your story or paper. This ending should leave the reader wondering what will happen next.
Okay, so this is where if you want to have the reader continue to question things. Okay? So here's an example. He was very embarrassed, and I didn't blame him for crying. I would have too if Mr. Dunn had treated me like Mark, and I feel today that the only reason he was so mean to Mark was because Mark was Native American. Mark never finished those scales that day, and he never came back again. I don't blame him for that either. So it's kind of like, what happened to Mark? It leaves the reader with some questions. That's an ambiguous ending. All right, full circle ending. You can close your paper story by revisiting the topic of your first paragraph at the end. Okay? So, look at the opening paragraph. So this would be like your intro, right? Grandpa's the king of the sea. He is always relaxed and calm, ready to fish. He may be old, but he's already ready to pull in that 30-pounder. Grandpa will sit for hours, patiently waiting for a bite. I admire those big calloused and scratched hands that have done so much, and the head with not too much hair left on top. Going fishing with Grandpa is always so much fun if you can learn to be patient. Now, this is the closing paragraph. This is how they're ending the story. Focus. I picked up the fish and put it in the wooden box halfway filled with river water. It was the box reserved only for fish we caught and were taking home, no exceptions. I gently laid the fish in the box, treating it like a baby. Instantly, I knew the answer to my question. It is always worth it to be patient. Okay? So how does that tie in to the first paragraph?
Because you had to learn to be patient.
learn to be patient, and he's talking about the fish, the 30-pounder, right? That's probably the 30-pounder he's talking about. So you can introduce the story and connect it at the end by either doing some foreshadowing like that. Always gotta be patient, and then the story tells you about patience. Okay, you could go with that if you wanted to. That's kind of a full circle ending. You guys have not seen this, but Deadpool is kind of like that. If you saw Deadpool 2, because in the beginning he loses his wife and it's kind of told in a flashback, then it circles around, then you understand all the details why. Okay? So, the fourth kind is the beginning of a news story. When writing a story or a personal narrative, you can close with a hint of things to come or the beginning of a new story. So kind of like a sequel. So all those movies that you know are going to have another movie coming. So who saw Infinity War?
Cool.
Okay. So you know at the end of Infinity War, what happens? Thanos snaps his fingers, right? And then everyone fizzles. And then Spider-Man goes, and I started to cry when that happened, when Spidey went.
I started crying out
No,
loud.
you didn't go. They're not gonna get because they killed Black Panther. They're not gonna go back and kill the
I don't want to hear your theory. I'm too upset that you okay? So that at the end of that movie, it introduces a new story, correct? You know that a new story is going to come because everyone is dying. So sorry. How are you going to go into it? But you guys can do that too, where you can kind of leave off into a new story. So like Alex, for instance, she's doing like a Sixth Man type of prequel for the Seventh Man story that we read. And she could end it in a way that leads into the Seventh Man, that we know the story. That would be the beginning of a new one. So here's an example, okay? Aiden, Nathan, focus. Aiden, I'm gonna move you here permanently. Okay? Starting tomorrow. Okay? Because every time I look over, you're not focused. Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine, Mary said. Deja vu. I sighed again and looked at Chloe. She turned to face me and stuck out her tongue innocently. I shook my head and swung my leg over the saddle. Chloe snorted happily at my defeat. We walked back to the arena's fence and I made myself relax. Chloe's ears turned to face the road. I heard sputtering motors in the distance. Motorcycles. Just my luck, I thought. So you see how that's leading into a new storyline of like people are coming down the road? That's how you can end your story as well. The one thing I do not want is the end or to be continued. To be continued just drives me up the wall. Okay? Because that's just you being like, I'm going to end my story, something else happens, this is good to go. Alright? Don't do that. Does this make sense? Those 4 different ideas for you? Okay. Does anyone have an idea of what they will use of those 4? Or another one that we didn't talk about? Those are just 4 really common ones. Justin, how are you ending your story? Do you know? Okay. Did that help? Okay. So if you're struggling and you don't know how to end it, maybe pick one of these and then develop from there. So then you've got the outline kind of how you're going to do it and then go from there. All right? You guys are just drafting for the rest of the day, so I'll come around and help you. Just raise your hand if you want me to work with you.